Welcome everybody to another episode of my podcast, and today I am very, very fortunate to have the time and the knowledge of Anita Veszeli, who is the Global Head of Social Engagement and Advocacy at Ericsson. And I think I saw Anita on LinkedIn Live you were doing, I think, with LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and then we connected, and you've very kindly given up some of your time to share through your experience. So before we kind of get into your article, which caught my eye, 4 research-backed tips to help you plan your 2021 social media strategy, can we give the audience a little bit of history, your background, kind of who you are, and how you've got to what you're doing, I guess?
Of course. Thank you for the introduction. So I don't even remember how many years, and maybe I just don't want to say it, experience I have across marketing and communication. So I started with PR and marketing, demand generation, corporate relations, investor relations, so pretty much like you name it. And I've been using social media ever since the beginning. And there was one point at Ericsson, whenever we started to work with integrated marketing, and social media or digital marketing was quite unique experience. And then I specialized on social. Mm-hmm. So in my current role, in the past 4 years, I've been leading with that super long title that I'm impressed that you could actually pronounce it and say it. What it means or entitles to say that I have the holistic overview from social listening to organic, paid, influencer marketing, employee advocacy, measurements, governance around social. So I really believe that, social media is not and shouldn't be owned just by marketing. Mm-hmm. It's really a bridge between external and internal comms. Yep. And it has to be embedded to all parts of the organization, from security to compliance to talent acquisition, sales, PR, marketing. And it's not just a channel, and it needs to work with your websites, with the SEO strategy. So it's something that is really at the center. And still so many people see it, as a free tool. It's not free. And it's really hard sometimes to show people that how much work actually or thinking just goes into one social post.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the work around it. So that's my kind of like unique position that I think really few have, because usually social or some of these elements that I've said, they are siloed across the company. And that's when you cannot really integrate it or have the full impact.
And you're responsible for the whole of Ericsson, so Ericsson globally as a brand. I mean, so yes. that's no small task, right? in terms of a company of that size.
It's 180 countries and more than 100,000 employees.
Wowzers. I struggle with my 5-year-old and our 3-year-old. You have that to deal with. Not sure which might be harder. So with that in mind, and it's and I totally agree with you in terms of the social and social media now it has to be baked into everything that you do at a business level across the organization. Both to your point, internally, you see obviously Salesforce, the recent acquisition of Slack, in terms of the direction that they're going. You see what Teams is now doing, and Microsoft, I think Viva, that they launched the other day, and how they're trying to draw all of this together. And it's interesting from my perspective, watching what has happened over the last 12 months because of the pandemic has forced organizations to consider social media in a completely different perspective. So, I mean, everybody knows what's happened and what's gone on. But what I'd be interested to understand from your perspective, in your experience, if an organization is going, right, we are where we are, this is not going to change. How do I start to think about building this into the culture of a business? Where do I start? You have your 4 points that we've mentioned, but let's flip it. Where should people start? What sort of things should they be thinking about?
I think whenever it comes to employee advocacy, I think you always have to start with the basics. So usually if you believe that that's something, and we have Edelman Trust Barometer, we have all the research that it backs it up, that people are the most trusted source. And so many companies still focus on the corporate social media accounts that, I have my little own, and I own it and don't take it away from me. But is that the most effective way to actually communicate and engage, not just broadcast? So I think first you need to build your case internally, because if you don't have the buy-in for a pilot to show that what it can bring, then it's a constant hurdle. And then I think it's having an employee advocacy tool in place that can help people, because usually some of them are like over social. That could be the young generation. And that's when you need to guide them that, having photos of or sharing everything on Instagram, just like your lunch, it doesn't necessarily the same in a company environment. Those are things that you should, this is your playground, and then you can play within, and that's the safe way. And you have others who are just like so afraid of sharing that if they share this, is it okay or is it not? They have the imposter syndrome, like why anyone would care like what I have to say, because what I know is like everyone knows. And helping them through that stage. So at the first step, like having that in place and having just like, suggested posts, which is safe. The content is safe and the post, that can be stage number one. Building out the training program that they can consume, and it's like e-learnings or online trainings plus being there as a support is, I think, another element. And I know that these are so easy to say, but for us it also took years to get there.
2 years. Okay. And was that training, was that a combination of kind of in-person, online, e-learning, the kind of the hybrid model of all of this?
Exactly. And now we are in an advanced level where we can see the data from our employee advocacy program. And whenever we see that someone is inactive or an obese, then we can send them specified e-learning modules that we think that, these would help you.
Okay.
And whenever they take the next stage, then we can send them an additional 3 to 4. And we also have like coaching sessions, we have Kickstart programs, we have master classes. So we try to accommodate like all sorts of personas within our company. What is the content that is relevant for them? Because your sales teams need different content than marketing and comms. Your experts, a data scientist, is not interested necessarily in hardware development. So they need all sorts of content, and you also need to cater for that. So I think it's start small, and as you build, always show the results internally, and then get more support, because it's impossible to do it as like one person or as a side job. That's how I started. And like for half a year, that was like, my passion project. But it's fulfilling.
No, it is, and it's certainly when when I work with clients, it's you see them come to life online. That's the beauty of it, and you see them come to life and go, oh my god, I did this and that happened, or this person connected with me, or that business meeting was generated because of that. We just take just a slight step back, because you and I get it. We don't even need to be told the ROI and the proof in this, because we just know it. We know it works. I mean, this in this whole conversation started through social, through to a couple of weeks ago we didn't even know each other, and here we are now having a conversation around all of that. But this is second nature to us. But how do you go around? And maybe you had to do this. How do you go around proving something to someone who may not necessarily buy into the concept of social media, which is very intangible to start with, that this is actually something good to do, and you're going to have to kind of take a leap of faith to do this? What tips or what sort of things could you give to the listeners, that if someone is in your position, that they want to go to their board or management team to go, look, I know you don't believe in this, but we have to give this a go? What sort of things should they be thinking about?
I mean, I think the first step is that, have you Googled yourself? So whenever, and that's usually like a quite shocking question at first, like, why would I? It's whatever you find there, that's what people think about you. And maybe you don't Google yourself, but your customers will do. As a salesperson or anyone who's setting up a meeting or you're
Yeah.
going, the first thing you do is you check their social media profiles.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first impression that you have from them. And then the face-to-face is just going to be a second. So, and actually we have the power to change that perception. How do you want to be perceived? Do you know that as a CEO, you are perceived as like grumpy and old, but you are not. And you want to change that you're a team player, you're open. That's your space and the most trusted source or platform where you can change that. So I think that's something that is like quite strong and resonates with people. I think the other thing that, is like, I'm not on social media. And I think yesterday I was on Clubhouse in a discussion about employee advocacy. And Daria Guzman from Mercer, she had a really, really great line that, you might not know social media, but you are social because you're a human being.
Indeed, and that's the bit about the social network. It's the network, and the social bit is you, right?
Exactly. So the platforms change, and like, do you use emojis or how do you structure it? Do you tag people, or is it the best post? That comes with experience and learning by doing. But we as human beings, we are social. So it really stuck with me. So I'm going to steal it from her.
Absolutely, I think I know of Danielle in terms of her work at Mercer and Clubhouses. I think it could be a whole separate podcast on that and where we think that's going and spaces and an interesting concept. So we've got them. Okay, this is the first impression that you create, especially in this virtual environment that we're in now, where we can't have for the most most of us around the world can't have face-to-face meetings. Conferences are going to be a thing of the past for the foreseeable. So the LinkedIn is kind of the safe place for B2B. Of course, there are many platforms out there that you can use to drive this. And I certainly saw an interesting change in behavior on LinkedIn over the last 12 months. Went a little bit too close to the edge, I think, in terms of Facebook, and I think they're now trying to bring some some rules and changes to kind of just row back a bit on that. How do you get that absolutely from the CEO, salesperson, front facing, data scientists? How do you encourage a data scientist that they should actually be? I'm making a massive assumption here that I'm going to suggest they're more on the I of the Myers-Briggs scale, so introverts rather than extroverts. That they should actually have a presence on social media and be out there and doing things.
It's a good question because we also struggled with that one. But actually, they are on the internet. They are on social, but they have their own little bubble. And of course, there are things that they consume. They don't necessarily engage, or they like to engage in like those geeky discussions. So for them, building their presence, it doesn't necessarily need to be as like for an executive. But it should be about relationships. So that's when the marrying employee advocacy with influencer marketing and really pinpointing that you say like these are your peers or these people are actually influential in the topic that you could be interested in and you can geek out. That's where you get them.
Interesting. So it's almost looking at that peer-to-peer not pressure, but hey, this person is doing it, and either you look up to them or what have you. Therefore, if they're doing it, it's okay and safe for you to do it, and you could then become part of their tribe. Is a word that sometimes we see out there on social and draw that thing. And I'm glad you mentioned influencer marketing because I want to come to that in a minute because you always get eyebrow raisers in the B2B world. You touched on measurement and. For me, that is probably the amount of times I've had people say to me, prove it works. And I say, well, prove to me anything works. Because from my perspective, and I'm not dealing anywhere near the scale that you are, it's all around attribution. So can you attribute a business conversation or an action or something that resulted because of something that you did? That could be a cold call, that could be an email campaign, that could be paid, what have you. But in kind of the organic social world of social selling, if you want to call it that, or modern selling, digital selling, whatever it is, how have you been able to kind of prove that the 2 years that you've been, training and building this behavior internally within the business is now actually translating into something, whatever that something might be?
I think directing a social media post to $1 million business, it's not something that we cracked yet. It's quite difficult to do it. First of all, the business model that Ericsson goes, we have our target audience is the telco operators.
Yeah.
And even from them, the top X% is where 80% of the revenue comes.
Yeah.
So it's really the account-based marketing type of thing, understanding, the buying committee. Yeah. And so for sales is that one. I think how you prove with employee advocacy, there are different things, because for marketing, what you want to prove is what is the percentage or the numbers that you drove traffic to .com or event sign up. And our employee advocacy program, Team Ericsson, is among the top 5 sources.
That's awesome.
So that's, impressive. Is it for free? That's what they think. It's of course not for free, because tons of work goes there, just like the content curation, the platform, the e-learning module. So it's a huge amount of money that we spend there. But is it actually better and smarter than paid social campaigns? In some ways, yes, they are. Another area what we are also looking at, that is our executives or experts are connected to the right peers or influencers. And whenever we see that where we started, that, some of our competitors were more connected than our people, and I can see that how those bubbles are changing, that's again a proof. And everyone, and usually top management, is quite competitive. So they like to see that, we are doing better, or at least this is where we started. So that's also a good buy-in, that how do you compare to your competitors? And for sales, again, are they connected actually to our customers? And also showing that how that have changed compared to other companies. How are we evolving? So sometimes I think those numbers are proving, and I don't like to say, just like a dashboard with all the numbers and KPIs, because it doesn't give any context. So of course we, like, the social media team or the experts, we look at those, but these are the really valuable ones that I can really show how we are progressing. And I think they mean a lot.
Indeed. And I think just to, for anybody that's listening, if we just take a step back to your comments around kind of proving that this drove traffic to .com or signups, is that because you're tracking those posts that are driven through the employee advocacy tool that you have, so you can then work out from that corporate account or that person's account that led to X impressions, X click-throughs, X signups, therefore we know that channel's working, versus that route we're getting nothing, so something's not working over here. So there does need to be some investment, I guess, in technology to support the ability to actually track this. You can't just go, hey, everybody start sharing stuff on whatever the social media platform is, and then manually ask everyone to go into their LinkedIn profiles, or how many views have you had? Or okay, fine, good to.
I mean, that's not going to work.
No, it's not going to. It's not going to work, and it's also reassuring to hear you talk about that you don't just want to show dashboards, because sometimes I've been, the outsider in a meeting, and marketing kind of give all these numbers, and management just sort of nods, going, "Oh, that sounds impressive. 1 million of this and 200,000 of that," and it's like, and what does that actually mean in the cold light of day? Is that a good number? Is that a bad number? Where is that leading to in terms of, are we reducing our recruitment costs, for example, because we're getting more direct hires? Are we getting better brand visibility in a market that we weren't getting brand visibility, and so on and so forth? I guess then also the fact that I think it was, did you say 100 plus countries that you have to look after? Each country
180.
in its own, 180, crikey. Each country in its own right is going to be unique in terms of subtleties of, narrative, language, different social media platforms, again, different experiences as that. So how does one even begin to think about managing that, or do you just let that cascade and that's dealt at a local level?
I think first you start and you try to take different steps. So first you try the one size fits all, and whenever you fix that one, that you have like a good content flow, that what people are engaging with, you understand it, you start to extend it, you start to onboard your business areas, market areas, to buy into the concept of employee advocacy. What does it mean? What successes they can see? So first you do that advocacy internally and get the buy-in. Sometimes it can take up to a year, while everyone understands in such a big organization. But some of them will come with you. You can train them as champions to work on the same knowledge, operations, governance, that the global team, that they are fully compliant and we are working as one team, that you are not creating 100 versions of the same employee advocacy program. So that is the way to go. And of course, again, just like with each maturity, that first you start somewhere and then you have like all these hurdles, and then when you get to another stage, then you are facing different challenges what you need to solve. So I think we need to remember it's not going to happen overnight, and we really need to work as a team, but always find the people who are as passionate about it, or they also see the future and they can help you. And then slowly, I think all the others will understand and come whenever you can also show the results.
And in terms of that kind of compliance piece around making sure that it's kind of the one employee advocacy program, rather than I've been in global organizations where people have gone rogue and gone off on a tangent. Is that, and especially obviously an organization of your size, is that where the Team Ericsson concept comes in? That if you say Team Ericsson to any employee who's engaged with this, they know exactly what that means and what that stands for?
I mean, hashtag Team Ericsson serves 2 or 3 maybe, or is on the line for 2 or 3 concepts. First of all, it's one team, it's one Ericsson. It's not the business area or the market area that I work with. I think it's like in big organizations, you can have that inside out thinking, but sometimes they also post externally that I belong to this and we have this competition, but no one understands besides your own little bubble, because it doesn't mean anything to them. Second, FTC compliance. So whenever Ericsson always takes it super serious that whichever standard or compliance is the strongest or the strictest in the whole world, we try to and we want to comply with those regulations.
That makes sense.
And the FTC regulation says that if you're advocating on behalf of your company, and you need to have, it needs to be clear that you work for that organization. So in our social media and security group instruction, this is why we also say that you should identify yourself as an Ericsson employee. But whenever you advocate or share any type of content that is related to Ericsson, that you need to use a hashtag Team Ericsson to be compliant. And the third one, the concept is really, just for people that they can also engage with and they can find content and for measurement purposes.
I was going to say absolutely, in terms of I've encouraged some of the large organizations and the marketing team must just make up a hashtag that is unique to you, so that at least you can see what's happening or not happening in terms of people posting or not posting with your contact, especially on platforms like LinkedIn, where their hashtag management is an absolute nightmare, and hopefully they will do something about that. I know they're building an audience engagement team out in San Francisco as we speak, but little tips like that to think about. Just create a hashtag that you can then follow, even if it's meaningless to the outside audience. It means something to you, and you can then you can then track. Are you able to share any kind of sort of great sort of personal stories, or from within Team Ericsson, or some great success stories that somebody's done this thing and that led to this cool thing happening?
I think it depends, like how does it include any customer data or financial data. Success stories, as I think we have a few that, and usually those are like new people who join Ericsson. I think one of the latest great stories, what we were like super proud of, it was we have our innovation awards, and there was a group of people who came with a really innovative idea, and they won one of the challenges. And from that moment, that person, he was still a student, he knew that he wanted to work for Ericsson. And he kept in touch with everyone, and finally he could join the team. And it was just like, so, you know, along with the Ericsson values that we appreciate. There was another person who actually had to leave his own country. I believe it was Syria, and lives in the UK, and struggled through so many things and getting a university diploma. And he also works for Ericsson now. So some of those great stories, you know, that really is like heartfelt. Those are, of course, really, really more than welcome to share. And we are so proud.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's usually like what is okay and what is not okay. I think what was not okay, it looked funny for the first time, you know, whenever we were in the first lockdown, like a year ago, or that's when it started. And I saw, you know, some of the cool pictures with one of our people in a bathtub and a laptop. And I was like, you know,
I thought you were going to say, because I was like, you know, lots of like, here's my home office setup, and somebody forgotten to like, they got a picture of your computer there, but in a bath.
Occupational health and safety. It's just like, are you serious? You know, even if it's just for a prop or for a cool picture. I mean, a laptop is just like, you know, a hairdryer. You shouldn't have your laptop in that.
Oh, dearie me. I guess that is also the risk, right, with social media, is that people will go rogue, not necessarily intentionally. They'll think that they're trying to be a bit clever, and it just doesn't quite land how they think it's going to land. And I guess that's part of the nature of the beast that is this hyper connected world that we that we live in. So, with that all in mind, that's been so helpful. Thank you so much for sharing your insights on that. Where's it all going? Where do you know, we are, as we mentioned, is that it is now evident every organization, well, if an organization hasn't woken up to the world of social media, they better pretty damn quickly, otherwise they're going to become obsolete in the next, you know, foreseeable, because of where we're at. But based on your insight, your knowledge, what you're seeing and hearing, you know, within your world, possibly within work that Ericsson might be doing with your very, very clever data scientists, etc., where do we think this is possibly going to go?
I think it's really about where we are going is really the personal connections.
Okay.
Because I think so many companies, they might understand the power of employee advocacy, but they still see it as an advertising. Right. You know, that my employee is going to be my billboards.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's the right way to do, because we don't trust advertisement. We don't trust those, you know, typical salespeople who. And what you trust is really genuine connections, when we care about each other, when we can stand out, and each of us are unique. We all have something to say, to add. So I think it's overcoming that imposter syndrome, that why would it be me? Finding connections. Today I was on phone calls with 2 companies after some of my webinars or LinkedIn lives, that how do we do it? And it was a genuine discussion between 2 companies. Okay, this is what I face. Yeah, I also facing that one. And it's not about that I do it better than they are. Maybe we are more advanced because of like the leadership buy-in, but we went through the same stages, and I don't say that, you know, we don't have any challenges right now, and I'm living in Canaan. It's just not. There are everyday real struggles. So I think where it goes is really focus on the employees, because your employees and your customers are the most important thing for all companies. And if you can enable and help your employees how to build their personal brand, hold their hands, or work with e-learning modules, then first of all, it helps the internal engagement. They are more motivated, they feel valued, that's something they can learn and it's useful for them. They can then take the next steps and be connected to customers. And when customers also see the genuinity, or that, okay, this is what I've been posting, they actually listened, they understand me, then you can also see real business results. So I think being humble, transparent, and consistent is the way to go. And that's what I think is the future is.
And I think that kind of ties in with what we're seeing around, the what is referred to as the gig economy. That employers may be employing people that do more than one thing for them, or it's the flexible workforce. So it'll be ever more important that somebody remains connected and part of the bigger purpose of where the business is trying to go. And I always say to leaders, I was like, LinkedIn is a safe, easy place to be. It's just so easy for you. Just imagine the power if you liked, a secretary's post or the janitor's post or someone in IT, just a like. How much that means. That's not asking anything of you, really. Just to engage with that post and start to bring that connectivity back, because we can't walk the corridors, we can't have those, and in some situations it just wouldn't be appropriate for leadership to be engaging with these people, just because of the nature of how busy we are. And in terms of, I'm kind of fascinated as much by the channel, because the channel is the channel, right? Your audience dictates which channel you need to be on, but is the content consumption itself. And you look at what's happening on TikTok, you look at what's happening with Clubhouse and now Spaces and now Facebook. Kel Surprise is going to create their own one, and probably someone else will create their own one. The next generation of employee coming through, I'm on TikTok, because I've got to be on TikTok, because I've got to understand it. I accept the security risks, but you get the security risks on Facebook, if I'm honest. Some of these generation of employees coming through, they are content creation machines in their own right. So for me, I think it's going to be an interesting challenge for an employer to keep that balance of the compliance piece, if you will, but not kill the creativity of this generation that's coming through, where this is just totally, it's almost like, why would you not be on social media? Of course I'm going to do this. And it's fascinating watching, I don't know if you are on TikTok, but watching, certainly in a B2C environment, how the corporate brands are now leveraging that 15-second, 60-second messaging, which is also an art in its own right, I believe.
Yeah.
Get your key points across in 15 seconds or 60 seconds that's engaging. So what are you seeing in terms of the content evolution in the round in all of this? Either at an employee level, you mentioned around, don't make sure you post a picture of yourself in the bath with a laptop or what you've had for breakfast, because that's here. But we are kind of seeing that shift and that blur, right, between business and home.
Yeah. And I think it's like for a corporation, it's always about your target audience. So for Ericsson, our main target audience is not on TikTok.
Yeah, agreed.
So until and they are not on Snapchat. So when Snapchat was new, and I also received so many emails from different parts of the organization that this is the hottest thing. Like, why Ericsson is not there? And I'm like, who do we sell to? Okay, are they on Snapchat? No. Okay, so do you see the reason why we are not there? That's the reason. And future employees, we also have segmentation. So we have like 10 different target audiences, sub audiences that we really know that's where we need to find our future talent. So we are again focusing that, okay, these are their personas, these are this is where they are. That's where we are putting all of our efforts. That's from a corporate side. And when you look at where people or employees are, I think, again, whenever you onboard them and having that first layer that, okay, this is our employee advocacy program. This is where you find corporate content. This is our social media and security group instruction. Plus here's an e-learning on awareness, just to make sure that you're aware of like GDPR and all the compliance that can take part to understand. And after that, if you understood all these things, creating content is just your right. You can also help them go through that, like whenever you're 16 or 17, it's just cool that you want to be on social. But what we also,
when I was 16 or 17.
No, but nowadays, or actually, you're 13 and you're on social.
I know, it's terrifying.
But what is your objective? Because I think as people evolve, or your career, or we get more mature, we just don't have as much time to spend on social or create that content. So you really need to focus on, what is my objective? How do I want my personal brand to look like? What are the 3 key areas that I want to be known for? And actually, I know them. And that's the content, because then it helps you to really be known for all of them. It eases up searching for content and sharing it, and also engaging. So it saves time, because whenever you grow up, you're gonna have kids, you have work, you even get a dog. You might not have time, to spend 5 hours on social media.
I sometimes wish I would. I hide away from it all. Don't tell my wife that. She's downstairs very grumpy at the moment. That has been, we could talk about this for ages, but I am conscious that you are a busy individual looking after hundreds of thousands of people in 180 countries. So the takeaways for me are, if you're thinking about doing this, get your leadership to Google themselves. And then what comes up might be scary, but that's what people are finding. Start small. Well, rather, so Google yourself, then prove if we do this and this can then happen. Start small, build from there. Technology, so employee advocacy tools to support this. Then start to bring in the metrics and the wider piece to start to scale from there. And I think also what I've learned through your 2 years into this, and you're still very much on the journey at Ericsson.
Of course, I mean, it's like there's always something that you can do better. Our lives are evolving, technology evolves, new social media platforms are coming in. Now with the lockdown, since you referred to my latest article, that actually collects studies that how people behavior changed, in the past year. You need to take all of those into consideration. So I don't say that, there's the, how we work is going to, there's the end. You just need to keep on adapting and evolving and trying to do and get the best out of it.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much, Anita. I really, really appreciate your time this afternoon. Where can people find you if they want to maybe follow up with you after they've listened to this? Shall I point to your LinkedIn profile as a good starting point?
Yeah. I use my own real name on all the platforms.
I will. I'll put a link to your LinkedIn profile and also your Twitter profile, and also that article where you put loads of really helpful resource in there to talk about your beliefs of where it's going towards in 2021 and what people should be talking about, which builds more on our discussion today. But Anita, thank you so much. I do appreciate it. And to all my viewers, I mean, it sounds grand, my viewers, hello on YouTube, all 189 of my subscribers, thank you, and everybody listening in the ether, wherever you may be. Again, I always appreciate your time and attention to these. You know what to do if you want to be on it. You know where to find me if you want to recommend people to be on it. But otherwise, wherever you are in the world, stay safe, and no doubt we will all see each other in the near future. Anita, thank you.
Thank you.